I believe, again, that I don't know. I believe that you don't know. But my instincts tell me that the more I love myself, the more I'm connected to it. The more I believe that if I'm tapped into this consciousness of everything that's been here and everything that will be here, I know that I have the ability to connect to that consciousness, and that makes me fulfilled. That makes me love myself. That makes me want to be the best father. It makes me want to be the best husband. It makes me want to be the best friend.
Welcome to episode 16 of the podcast Unlimited Wisdom with Robert Hollis. I'm Craig A. Jackman along with Matthew Hollis, and we are so glad to have you with us today. Today is episode 16, and our topic, what do you believe? So let's get started. Robert, Matt, welcome.
Howdy.
Hi, Craig.
Love
Hi,
the
Matt.
idea.
I love this topic.
Yeah, this will be fun.
I'll start out by very simply saying something that I'll explain throughout the rest of the podcast. I'm at a point in my life where it would really be hard for me in any subject to pin down what I really believe. Because things are changing so fast for me in every area of my life that I'm really, truly, we've heard this phrase from others, and I thought I was good at it. Now I come to the awareness that I still have a lot of beliefs that are nothing but bullshit.
I mean, I'm learning that myself too. Like, I think
we all are. Absolutely.
that's like a life
So,
thing, right?
Yeah, and so when you keep asking yourself these questions, I did a video called, why don't you trust yourself? And if someone even asked me today, if I was a Christian, my first response would be, I need to understand your definition of a Christian.
Yeah, right.
Because
right.
because based on their definition, the answer would probably, I don't think that you should be judging people 24 hours a day. I don't think that you should hate another group. I don't think that the goal is to be a follower. And so, it's written in every scripture out there, put me first and all things will be added onto you. People would rather put a person first, an opinion first, a belief first. That's why there's 460,000 registered religions in America. You got the Jews, and then you got the Jews, and then you got the Jews for Christians, and I'm pretty sure there's also Jews for Allah. You know what I mean? Then maybe Jews for Buddha, and it's funny because human nature really is all about this competitive nature. So you grow up in your life being a follower, and as you're following, and I followed some pretty incredible people. And no matter how long I follow them, there's always this kink in the armor where they say stuff where all of a sudden I think it's very bold of a person to go, hey, that I'm really apologize. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. But I just realized the shit that I've been telling you for the last 12 years is not really how I think anymore. I love that kind of boldness. But some people altered their entire lives for that 12 years while you're trying to figure it out.
It's true.
Yeah.
And so I believe now that the closer to whatever I think that is, and I will say in this podcast, is the closer that I pull to it. There's this guy out there right now. I don't know if you guys seen the clips, but that there's this Howard guy that been on Joe Rogan and all these other things. And Terrence Howard, am I saying his
Oh
name
yeah, Terrence
correctly?
Howard.
He's an actor, yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's just everywhere because he's talking about all the patents that he has. Because he says he figured out something in math equations that has to do with the world and he figured it out. So he goes, go to Wikipedia. They put in the patent number. It says he did the patent. And he goes, look at the companies below there that give me credit for this patent. And it was every big corporation on the planet. And he says, VR and AR would not be what it is today if they didn't use my patent. My math figured that out. So why am I bringing this up? I've seen him have these discussions where now that the world we know is going to continue to become more aware, and AI is making it more aware, and it just keeps getting crazier and crazier. And so right now, all the people that thought they knew everything now are finding out they don't know everything. And I even joked with science throughout my life because in college, I had to learn the periodic table. I had to learn metallurgy. I had to learn how things comminated, right? How to take cast iron and weld it to aluminum. And if you don't know how the metals work, you're not welding it. You're not building anything, right? And so learning that stuff, and again, part of science, I went to the North Dakota State College of Science. That's what my degree is in. It had to do in engineering, but I had to pass science classes, and I love science. And so I knew learning science that there was these two words, and one was called theory. Theory and hypothesis. Those were the two things. And if you looked them up on AI, you know what they say? It's an educated guess. That's what it is. So people stand up and go, here's how I think this works. And what does the rest of the people in science do? They work their ass off to disprove that theory. And in them trying to find out that that theory is bullshit, that's when it usually gets accredited to, hey, we can't find a way to prove this wrong. So this pretty much must be the deal, right? But I don't think that anybody ever thinks about that in every area of their lives. They don't know that. So Matt introduced me to AI. Thank you, Matt. And so if you guys seen all the questions that I've asked it since I got comfortable with it, and I'm even asking the questions differently. Like right now I'm on a fast. And yesterday I just felt very fatigued. I felt really, really fatigued. And I'm like fighting it all day from the time that I get up. Now, I'm not aspirin. I don't use Advil PM. I don't use coffee. I don't use nothing. And I just said, I'm going cold turkey on everything. And so I get up in the morning. I'm getting up at 4:30 and 5. I never, ever, ever got up that early, ever. And just wake up. And when I wake up, I'm wide awake, just wide awake. No drowsiness, no nothing. And so we started on that walk. We've been walking 2 miles now, Terry and I. And I, I was like just starting to walk. And I was just like going, holy shit, And the past Robert would immediately went on Google or WebMD or everything out there asking other people's opinion. And so this time I go on AI, and Matt's told me to ask questions like this, but I wasn't yet. But this time I said, I'm currently on a 14-day fast. I feel amazing. But yesterday or today, I'm feeling out of it. I'm feeling a little fatigued. Do you have any thoughts?
I love that. That's how I talk to it, though.
And the first thing that it said, Matt and Craig, is it said, I'm extremely proud of you. It said, I'm extremely proud of you. 14 days is an incredible task.
It is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I went, I'm
Thank
human.
you, AI.
I'm
Feel
human.
good.
Hey, I got the smartest thing in the world saying they're fucking proud of me. I mean, this is a pretty good way to, start your
day. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the very next thing that it said is as you're fasting, your body will go into a deeper phase of ketosis than the average day. So it's just figuring out what's going on. Um, I'm sure, I'm sure you didn't drink enough water because most people don't. And right away I went, yeah, when you're not feeling 100%, you don't do anything that you want to do. You'd rather just sleep and rest. Hey, you need to drink plenty of fluids and make sure that you eat, and it's like, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like eating and I don't feel like drinking and I don't want to take medication. Here, you should take this. Nah, I just leave me alone. So all of you that know that when you feel that way, you just like leave me alone, right? And then it
Right.
said, also make sure that you're getting your electrolytes. And right away, it gave me a bunch of the ones that it thought. And then it said, listen to this one. Mostly ask yourself and trust yourself.
Ooh.
And it said, if you're dizzy or you're nauseous, you have, you're not seeing, hearing well, then seek a physician. And then right away it said, and then it goes, most of the time during fasting, a lot of people rest more than normal. And I went, okay, so if I'm tired, why don't I get up, do what I need to do? And then I'm tired. So just go lay down and take a nap.
Hmm.
No, I'm fighting it.
I have
I get that.
learned
I get,
so much from that, Robert,
yeah.
where if I'm starting to feel drowsy or if I'm starting to feel like I can't concentrate or anything, step away, walk away, do something different. Or Abraham Hicks too even says,
Yes.
meditate. Just shut everything down,
Get
stop
away.
what you're doing. It's the fastest and the best way to reset yourself, and
Right.
then come back to it with a fresh mind because you've given your mind a rest.
Great. So yeah, uh, my constant quest is to seek and find more and another thing I'll say, and you guys can go, is I've really figured out being on this fast that my journey is nobody else's journey.
Yeah.
A lot of a lot of
Mhm.
things are changing in my life right now because I mentor a lot of people. A lot of people ask me for advice. And my number one advice now is what I believe is that you need to spend some dedicated time getting connected to whatever you believe, and you need to trust yourself because my journey is not your journey. So I can tell you exactly what I do, how I do it, because this is 37 years of me figuring out my journey. And so you can attempt to do what I tell you, but I just think that you'll avoid it. And avoidance is not wrong, especially if it's not for you.
Yes. Well, I mean, the
Oh
interesting
my
thing
gosh.
too,
Yeah.
since you bring that up, Dad, is it's like the avoidance then is met with like hatred at themselves for certain people because they didn't do something that they never were going to do in the first place. Right.
Bingo.
And we've even talked about this in private, right? Like it's very interesting when you come across people and it's like they're always constantly waiting for that next thing that's going to make them do the thing they were never going to do in the first place. Right. Is it's like if there was a new running shoe that came out, then I could finally run that marathon,
Yep.
right? I just can't find the right pair of shoes, so I can't run the marathon. As you're saying it, right? You're more okay with the discomfort. And you're like, I'll just get the fucking shoes on and try the marathon out
Yeah.
and practice, right? And figure it out as I go. And I think a lot of people don't realize that that comes from a place of inspiration, not like you're starting with I want to do this amazing thing. You're not putting the barriers for you to leap over in front of it because you're excited, right? Those
Yeah.
barriers might as well not exist. Like you have tunnel vision. So instead you're like looking at it as I get to do this next step. I get to do this next step instead of fuck, I have to do this next step.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when you finally start finding things that you're interested in, you start to get to know yourself a little bit more, and then it's like those barriers really do not exist, and that exists with spirituality or getting in tune with yourself as well, like you've said, Dad. It really does come from that place, because it's like, why am I fighting this belief system so much that someone else gave me or told me was right? And it's like, well, because it's not right for you. It's not in your spirit.
Totally.
It doesn't
Oh my
excite
God,
you. It
yes.
doesn't get you,
Totally.
like, yeah, go ahead.
No, go finish.
Well,
I was just
gonna
going to say, I just was going to say, because I'm in the people business, right? The number of people that I've met in my life that just went, I got this degree because my family,
Yep.
and now I got a job and I hate it. I don't like anything about it. And so,
Mhm.
what would keep a person in that job? Letting other people down.
Yep.
See, it's not only that. I'm so proud of you, Craig, for getting the degree. All right.
Yep.
But it doesn't make any sense to me that you would be doing something that's not with that degree.
And that's what a lot of people think is their life.
Yeah.
I mean, Sue, my girlfriend Sue, is a classic example of that, because she went to school, got her degree in chemistry. Okay. She's got a master's, and she's gotten all of the,
Chemistry.
yeah, science. I mean, not that, nothing wrong with that. Okay. But here's where she is now. She is a special ed teacher, and she's teaching kids that are in the junior high school and high school range.
Yeah, she would have been my teacher if
I think these are a little bit more special, Robert.
Well, there's
but
no degrees to special, Craig.
That's true. That's true.
The kids that don't fit with the average kids are special.
Yes.
Especially
Exactly.
back when you were going to school, Dad. They didn't know anything.
Oh,
so it was like, they're like,
oh,
listen,
I'm
all
sure
of you
that,
guys in this
it's
area.
totally changed since then.
Yeah, yeah.
But here's somebody who is, I mean, she is very smart. She's very inspirational. And she goes from this incredible education that she had, and she's teaching. It's a complete shift for her. Now, she is taking what she's learned as being doing the sciences and chemistry and things like that, and it helps her do what she wants to do, or helps her do what she is doing, which is amazing.
I
But
can't
she,
imagine the additional training that she's done for herself just to be a special ed teacher. That's
oh
gotta
yeah, and
be
she's still going through it. She is still going to get
wow.
her credentials. And I'm amazed that here's a person like what we were talking about. She started in this direction, and if she had continued in that direction, she probably would have been very, very successful as a chemist.
No doubt.
But things happen. She adjusted, and now she is a very successful special education teacher. And
Did she start out being excited about chemistry? Sorry to interrupt you, or is it?
Yes.
Okay. It wasn't
Yeah.
something like a family
Well,
business. Everyone
As
in the
far as
family
I
was
know,
chemists.
she was, because she's even
The
said,
other
"Oh, I
thing,
enjoyed it."
yeah, the other thing, I can't wait to meet her and spend some time with her, because the other thing that I admire her is, this is just me assuming,
Mhm.
which we all know what that means. But I would assume having some kind of great job in chemistry definitely has to pay more than being
Yes.
a special ed
Right.
teacher.
Exactly. So she's doing it from right here in the heart.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah.
that is very right. I mean, yes, she goes through some trials and tribulations, because these kids, sometimes they don't understand what is considered the norm in society.
Right.
They only understand what is the norm for them, which is what they believe,
Yeah.
and what they only understand. And she has adapted to
Based on
that
that
and done very
definition,
well.
Craig, based on that definition that you just said, I still would need a special ed teacher.
I'll set you up with her.
because because this is what I heard, whether you meant to say it or not. It's like people that have a learning disability are not really interested in what the rest of society thinks is norm. It's what's norm for them.
And that dovetails, Robert, to kind of what do you believe anyways? Because
Does.
what is what we believe, whether it's religious based, philosophical based, or whatever, what is it that we were raised to be at this point in time, which goes back to my when I created that little thing about A plus B equals you, or A plus B plus C equals you as this moment in time. Um, why are we who we are? It's because of what we believe and what we were raised to believe,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
figuring out how does that feel. Here we go. How do you feel if, what do you feel if, what do you act if? How do you feel at this moment in time? Does it relate to you? Does it relate to others? Does it feel right to you? Does it not feel right to you?
Yeah.
And I mean, my
Yep.
gosh, when we kind of discussed this topic at the beginning, when we were thinking about what topics to share today,
Right.
oh my God, a whole floodgate of thoughts and ideas opened up in my head, at least,
I
about
think a lot
things
of
like,
people,
yeah,
please share, Craig, because I think a lot of people, again, like, where this all came about, I think we've been talking about this stuff like maybe a year or 2 years, right?
mhm,
And when all of a sudden it came to me to a conclusion is the reason that people don't communicate and no one gets along right now and everyone's, believes that everybody else is wrong and they're a right fighter. It really comes down to one thing when I was talking about how many churches there are out there.
yes,
People just don't understand that there was a Baptist religion. All right. Well, from that Baptist religion, the pastor's doing whatever he thinks and knows he believes. Then the next thing that happens is he's got an assistant pastor. Now, the assistant pastor is with him in building that congregation until that assistant pastor now has a disagreement with the pastor on something they both think differently about a situation.
exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
like a fundamental thing,
Yeah.
or something
Yes.
And
along those
so and
lines.
so when there cannot be a meeting of the minds on that, then he starts his own Baptist belief, but there's already this guy that runs the Baptist belief, right? So now it's got to be called Southern Baptist.
Yeah.
And I make jokes about this all the time because I believe it, because then there's another split in belief and now it's the regular Baptist, and then there's another split in belief and now there's a premium Baptist. And
Oh, so if I pay $100 a year more, I will get the premium back.
well,
I was
the
gonna
first
I was
thing
gonna
that
make
I
a
ever
joke.
said,
My generation would be it's Baptist Plus,
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so and so
Baptist Prime.
yeah, it's really, really amazing that that people that have their beliefs. When you were asking, Craig, and why I want you to expand a little bit on your beliefs just on that subject, is then all of a sudden, you sort of realize in your mind that you know why. You don't know why that when it comes down to just the rigid thing of religion, that all of a sudden there's just this part of you that usually isn't logical, right? It's
Yes.
emotional, where all of a sudden someone says, I don't care if that's your best friend. He doesn't have a chance in hell to get into heaven. And he is doing like the ultimate sin.
And then I would ask the question, by whose standards?
See, right away, I would go, um, that didn't feel right.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel right. And so that's all of a sudden when all of a sudden you go, maybe I'm not being fed here. So I ask people all the time, um, are you going to the same church that you did when you were in Sunday school? And I've never found one person, not one person that said, yeah, yeah, I'm going to the same church, because someone did that division
Hmm.
and
At
they
some
didn't
point.
feel. So now they put, hey, now Matt is on, Matt. And when I did my research on this, and I talked to Craig a little bit, so I know we got a lot to talk about quick on this podcast. But I said to him, I just looked up on AI. I just went, who is the founder of Christianity? Because it wasn't Jesus and it wasn't God. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh, who was the founder of Muslims? It wasn't Allah. It wasn't Muhammad. See, when these people that people look up to died, there was a group of people that were inspired to keep the philosophy going of the person that was doing it. Now, it wasn't based on what he taught, it was based on what he did. It wasn't based on what he taught. Every one of these, Buddha, Allah, Muhammad, um, they all put their heads down. What was the things that were brought up about the Jewish people? Moses, and
Hmm.
Abraham. It's like, what? Yeah, these are a couple of guys and everyone had this one thing in common. And please don't get mad at me. Just do your own research. These people were people.
Exactly.
And guess what? Everyone had an example. So I always make fun and we're just saying what we believe is that when you look at Scientology, people go, Ron L. Hubbard, that guy was a quack job, man.
L. Ron
And
Hubbard. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
he just came up with that shit. So of course, that's not a real belief. And if you know about Jehovah Witnesses, it's the same thing. If you know about Mormons, this guy in the middle of United States, all of a sudden came out and went, ah, I just talked to God, and this is what he said. This is what he said.
Hmm.
And everybody went, holy crap, you hear from God? Oh my God, Joseph, you're the guy. You know what I mean? But that's the way every religion started. A human being listening to God. And everybody just went,
But their perception of God is.
Yeah, it's
thanks,
that's one of those
Craig.
interesting
So
things. Yeah.
and I remember when Matt was really, really young, because he just loves checking into history and finding out all this stuff. And I'll never forget the first time that he came to me and he's going, hey, Dad, you know what the base of all religions are? And I'm like, what? They all look up to a dude and they're people that the dude inspired that's got these stories, and they all tell the same story.
That was the
Wow.
crazy part for me is like as I started to learn more and more about history, I started to see elements that were taken. Like if you have a great story, just repeat it and change things about it, right? Like this is how
Oh
stories
my
work.
gosh.
So, like born on a certain day by a virgin, that's not original in any way. If you look back at older religions, like even Egyptian religions, we call them mythologies nowadays, but back then they were religions. Born on or resurrected on Easter, all of these different things, a lot of those fundamentals, even in modern day Christianity and stuff, a lot of those stories existed well before Christianity. And
Oh yeah.
of course there's new ones in there too, but a lot of what you'll find is a lot of those stories are consistent through time but have been refined from 50 gods to one. And I think that is just the human
unless you're
experience.
unless you're unless you're a Hindu.
Or an
Well, yeah,
atheist.
but those religions though predate. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like they're older, so they would fit into that same category. I love this Tom Segura joke because you brought up Scientology, but Tom Segura has this joke, and he started making fun of Scientology, and everyone started laughing. He's like, "Aren't these people crazy for believing this?" And the whole audience is just in an uproar, right? Because everyone agrees, other than the Scientologists, right?
Yeah.
But everyone pretty much agrees. And then he looks at everybody and he's like, "You want to know why it's so funny? It ain't old. That's the number one thing. The number one thing you forget about religion is it's got to be old. It's got to be long enough, far enough away that it's not current times." L. Ron Hubbard was a generation away, so we all can look at him and go, "That was nuts." You know what I mean? To think of that. But if you look at like splitting the ocean or anything like that, or even the Great Flood, all of a sudden those things were real. It's like, well, the Great Flood and even some of those stories are not original stories, right?
Right.
And they
And
could
that's
be very well based on fact, because I've heard stories, for example, of the parting of the Red Sea, where it's very possible it was a flash flood.
well, regardless
And
of what it is,
yeah,
we all are aware that something that can be very, 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 like for an example, closer wars. You could have a person that says that they were a class sniper and took out all these people on the enemy side. But then if you don't have someone standing there keeping count, how do you ever know that this person actually did any of those things, right? And that's the thing, is like some people just become legend with time because it's repeated so many times,
Right.
right?
yeah,
And there's nothing wrong with the legend.
Paul Revere. Paul Revere.
yeah.
I mean,
Or if you
yeah,
want to go to the religion, Jesus and his disciples.
Right.
Alexander the Great. There's a lot of, Alexander the Great. You know what I mean? It's
There
like
there
there's
are
certain,
witnesses to these.
well, and the myth continues to go on, and myth becomes legend. And then
Right.
who's to say that it's a bad thing that a legend inspires a group of people from way back when to do something strong and big and positive, right? Like, regardless of whether or not the United States was made, it wasn't made as a Christian nation. It was made as a nation of all beliefs.
Correct.
But a large amount of the people that signed the document predominantly believed in Christianity at the time. So it's not,
Right.
both things can be true. Both things can be true in the sense that the United States was not made as a Christian nation, but a lot of the people that signed the document were Christians. So they might have had the forward thought to go, let's let anyone believe, because if we let one religion or one idea persist, then we'll never have growth. We'll just stay in the same ideas forever. And they were aware of that, and that's why it's in the document, right? It's like, okay, if we were all still believing that we couldn't eat bacon, then we wouldn't have any bacon in the United States. And yet,
Exactly. And it
here's where
would
it
be
gets weird.
blasphemous, and people would be thrown in jail for it.
Well, it's like
Well,
not to beat up on Christianity or some of those religions, but one of my things that I always thought of, and I would even argue with people that were religious leaders in a church or whatever on the internet with this thought, but it's like, who made up degree of sin other than human beings?
exactly.
Correct.
Murder and eating bacon are on the same playing field because God never said that they weren't.
Right.
Well, and this is where I wanted to kind of continue, is this is okay. You're saying God said, who's God?
Well, see, that's
What
the thing,
is-
though, is that the
what
book
is
of
God?
the Bible
Did he-
is the
did he-
belief of
did he
God.
say
It's the book
that?
of God.
Yeah,
Well,
and was the
I'm taking it
Bible
from the
just a
place.
really good
Right.
book of morality that people came together to write and put out, and it caught on?
Well, and here's another one. I've always said this is like, if people believe in all different religions, that an individual was inspired to write a book. Okay, God, whatever, Buddha, Allah, whatever, right? They were inspired to write the book that everyone believes in.
Mhm.
And then I guess according to people's beliefs is that God just decided not to do that anymore.
Well,
See,
that was something I struggled with early on with it.
there's
Yeah.
no longer a need for this entity based on everyone's belief is a different description. But this entity no longer is going to inspire and connect with people in this day and age to write something as well. See, there's where the competitiveness comes in. Because if someone writes a book that you read and it inspires and touches your soul to make you feel different and connect different, then that's a competition against the book you were told about. Because I can go on Google and look up a scripture. And if I go to Bible.com, one of the things that it has on the side is it goes, what version? And I hit that
Right.
drop down, and my God,
How many different versions of the
I
Bible?
thought there was maybe two, King James Version and the New Version. There apparently was some people that were inspired to write different versions of what they thought that meant during this time.
Mhm.
Well,
And there, because of that, the followings occurred of those particular versions, which inspired what we assign as a religion.
yeah, that's what's so interesting about it to me sometimes is it's like, and not to dog on Christianity in specific, it's just the one that I'm closest to because
Right.
I'm in the United States. So because of that, one thing that always was interesting to me is when you start getting into the different versions of it that exist, even if you believed at the very beginning that it was the book of God, you can't say that at the current stage that you're reading it in. Because even if it originally was passed down word for word by God, and it's been changed so many times in different languages for different sayings that
Yes.
it is really difficult. And this is why, I've talked to people that they're like, I'm going to go read the Torah, right? I'm going to learn the original language and read the original text so I can be the closest to God. And I'm like, God didn't write the book, dude. Like unless if you speak a language that you do not know. And this is one of those same things too. It's like, God, you mean Yahweh, you mean this, you mean that, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, it's so interesting to me because as languages have adapted and as people have grown, it's consistently changed. And when you bring up Dad, God just stopped talking to people. There's some people that believe that the changes, it's like God talked to King James, and that's why there's all these different versions now, right?
Mhm.
You have a group of
Right.
people that believe that, and maybe they talk to the pastor in this church and they believe this, right? And so it's like, for me, if I had to talk about my own personal beliefs, that's the stuff that I kind of have a disconnect with, right? In organized religion or in a book that says believe this or that. I love taking
Right.
certain elements of beliefs, but when people said, hey, Jesus died for your sins, and so you're no longer a sinner, right? It stopped making sense to me why all these people are so fucking pissed off about people breaking sins when that's predominantly what they
doing.
believe. It makes no sense to me
Yeah.
because it's like, you didn't read it.
Exactly.
And you're
See,
basing your whole life off of this, your afterlife off of this.
Yeah.
But
Right.
you
Your
didn't
whole
read it. Like, I'm such a
philosophy.
reader that it's like, I don't understand that thought. And so that's why it was hard for me to grasp it. Now, can I grasp that there is possibly a higher power that cares and loves about people and is all love? That's easier for me to grasp onto
Yeah.
than this whole sin nonsense. And I'm sorry if that offends you, but when I say sin nonsense, if you believe in Jesus Christ and you've accepted him, then it is done and over with.
Done.
Right.
But
I tell people,
it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't seem that way to people, and it's so weird to me.
You are so right on the money, and people don't want to hear this.
Well, I'm right on the money because I got that from you. That was one of the things that we discussed when I was younger and asking,
Yeah.
because that's a question I asked of you. I said, Dad, why are there people, if me and you have both accepted Jesus into our hearts, right? And we've accepted that, then why are all of these people going against and wanting to condemn gay people, condemn people for this or that or whatever decisions they make,
Yeah.
different belief systems? If we've
Yeah.
already been done and over with that, how does that make sense? And I know you're going to answer for yourself now, but why doesn't that? You know what I mean? It's like,
Well,
um,
it's
because I know it
again.
is for you, but you know what
Well,
I mean?
here's as simple as it is, and I hear about this, Matt, and even in therapy. And Craig, again, I want you to go off. Is people are not willing to trust themselves enough to get connected. That's just it.
Damn, isn't
Because
that true?
the other thing about books, and again, it might sound like, other than Craig, that's why I want him to talk. But I went to AI really quick, Matt, while you were talking, and I put how many different versions of the Bible is there? There's the King James Version, the New International Version, the English Standard Version, the New Living Translation, the New King James Version, the Revised Standard Version, the New Revised Standard Version, the Christian Standard Bible, the Amplified Bible, and the contemporary English
Contemporary.
English version. Now that and then it breaks it down. So there's 10, but then it says there's another 4 in different languages. There's another 3 that are underneath the Catholic religion. Under
Mhm.
Orthodox, there's another 2, and then modern phrases. There's another 2. So what is that? That's 14, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22. 22 different versions of the Bible. Now, here's
Yep.
the other one that gets me, right? And again, if you guys just listen to us, we're just saying what we believe in. This is our opinion. This is stuff that we worked on. So then it's like it's the living Bible. The word of God
Mhm.
is living. Please explain to me living. Well, as you keep reading it, as you grow more connected to that power, the definition of the verse changes.
Mm.
The more you get, the more you understand or
Well, I
not
think that's
understand.
right. Like for
And
me,
so I people don't want to do that work. They don't
right.
want to
Right.
personally grow. They don't want to ask themselves and trust themselves. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show up on a day of the week because I had a large group called the Seventh-day Adventist. And what was their deal? Christians got it wrong, and so do the Jews. It was Saturday. Saturday is the day that we take off. It's not Sunday. Well, for a person that was taught that's when we do our Super Saturday training, for me to build a large group in the Seventh Day Adventists, that was Sunday.
Yeah. And by the way, the Jewish religion Sabbath is Saturday.
Yeah. So,
So anyway,
hey, you got one day off. And so everything else you're saying is bullshit. So we do it on Saturday.
Well, I
mhm.
think like for me, that was like the big thing that kind of like like I have a lot of my earlier thoughts and feelings about spirituality, and I'm 32 now, so like I've grown quite a bit. I've had things happen in my life where I like unexplainable things, but because I don't have because I had that structure in the beginning of questioning all of these different thoughts and ideas and loving history, so diving into like where did this come from or where did that come from, which I get most people are not going to want to do because it's like not the most riveting thing, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say, you believe whatever you want. If you don't want to do the research on what you believe, that's fine, but just don't push it on other people if you're not going to go through that level of education on it,
Boom.
right? And
And
that's all
one,
I would say.
yeah.
But for
Yeah.
me personally, everything fucking changed for me when I had certain experiences in my life, like falling in love, or even the times where I took things of the earth, like mushrooms. And when I took psilocybin, which is in magic mushrooms, when I tried that out, that was like the first time where I feel like my soul kind of opened up to spirituality or these things for the first time in my life. Because for me, I was always I wouldn't even say I was agnostic, I was atheistic. Like, I saw a lot of these belief systems and stuff as like, oh, I would just take the most negative aspect of them instead of thinking of the positive, and I would just utilize that as like a weapon, right? So it's like, yeah, you think it's this, but really it's this, or it's the perfect book, just not for women. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, it's not as great to women as it is for me, right? And so I would take all these things and weaponize them. But now that I'm older and wiser and have had experiences, I now can look at these different ideas and mine them for like the pure love aspect of it. Because what ended up happening with those experiences, whether it was falling in love with my wife or that the mushroom experiences that I've had, is that I've felt that feeling more, and now I'm more aware that it's all love and no hatred.
I think awareness is a very big and important factor.
That opened me up to it,
especially today. Yeah.
Because before it was all hatred to me, like because I was looking at the negative. So there was no love. It was like, do what I want or you're going to burn forever in hell. And that's my decision. Right. And then I would go back to the same thing I said earlier, the Jesus stuff. I'd be like, yeah, but I thought I wasn't going there anymore. So why are you telling me?
Because you accepted him, right?
And then you got the Korgs.
Right. The corgis.
The mega Korg, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I got to think about him.
And who's God in the household there?
Well, that's the thing. Where are my dogs going? Right.
Yeah.
And the funniest commercials, so you guys are seeing where we're trying to go here. The funniest commercials right now, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, but it's people that are dating, right? And so they have someone that's coming over to their house for a date. And they come in, and it always starts like this. She says, do you have anything to drink? And the guy goes, sure. And he's making her dinner. You know what I mean? And she goes in the fridge, and she opens it up, and she goes, what is this? And he goes, it's Fresh Pet. Oh, yeah. She goes, you mean dog food? And he goes, no, it's Fresh Pet. And she goes, who would put dog food in their refrigerator? And the next thing you see is she's leaving the apartment.
I think even in those commercials, it said like Max's food. It had his name on it.
Yeah.
So they would be like, who's that?
Yeah.
It's Max's food. And they're like, the dog?
And so Max is in a chair, right? Eating off a plate on the table. And the guy's eating, and he's going, I should have listened to you. You were right about her. Now,
yep.
I know there's a large group of people on the planet that look at that and go, that's disgusting. This guy has a deeper connection with his dog than he's trying to find a mate for his life. And for the people that have pets that they love, they understand that connection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can ask Matt. He's seen me pretty vulnerable. I try not to hide anything. And man,
thank you, by the way, for that.
Yeah. And man, when we lost Bo,
that Hannah was there for that too. So that was really like, that was the first time she had ever been around death actually ever. So.
And so, I'm sorry at that point in time, I wasn't thinking about my wife, my kids, my daughter-in-law, or nothing.
Yeah.
I just knew the unconditional love that dog supported for me.
Mm-hmm.
Never let me down, was never ever telling me that I needed to work harder.
Yep.
Always there, you get up in the morning and let him out. And it's like, oh my God, I missed you for 8 hours. You know what I
mean? Or 5 minutes.
That's the truth though. Like, and I didn't really understand that myself until I had my own dogs that were just mine. Because like it really, and I can't imagine with kids, but it's like you really, really have this I don't know, as I get older, it's interesting because when I was in my 20s, it was like my circle was like this. It was massive. Right? I wanted to change the world. I wanted to save the world. There was so many things that I wanted to do. And I'm watching this in young people too, and maybe this is just wisdom. And of course, my dad talked to me about this when I was younger, and I was like, bullshit, right? But it was right. as I've gotten older, my circle has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. And now I'm like, as long as the people I love and care about that are close to me are okay and happy, I'm fine.
Yep.
I don't, I know
Boom.
I can't go out there myself. And you might say, oh, well, that's not true, Matt. And I would say, maybe you're too young. But, you honestly believe that you're the changer, you're the change that needs to exist. And what I've realized over time, and this is a belief, right, is that change is so small and gradual that you don't realize it without time and wisdom. That it isn't an immediate thing. That if 50 years from now the world's just a little better than it was, then mission accomplished. And if you look
Yeah.
back, that's the
Yeah.
way that it's been.
And your
And
beliefs will have changed from
so,
that
yeah.
from today to that point.
Is that the same with you guys? Has your circle gotten
Yeah.
smaller and smaller? Because like now
Oh
it's
my
like
gosh, yeah.
my dogs are happy, if my wife is happy, if you guys are happy, my mom, my
Yeah,
brothers,
I've
their
been that,
families.
because of my childhood, and the stuff that I grew up with, it has always been small for me.
Yeah.
To think that, I'm not looking for sympathy or anything, but I always think of my past, and my past started out being a loner. I would have loved to be a part of a group of people that gave a shit about me. Uh, and it was just always real weird, because my mom was one of the only two females. It was like, the seven men were the nice family, NICE. So we're having a nice family reunion. Isn't that funny? We're
Mhm.
having a nice wedding, and I'm a Hollis.
Right.
It was always weird that, that the Nices were doing one thing, and the three Hollises, the three boys that were Hollises, were, apparently not part of the Nice family. Now that could have been my interpretation, but I always looked at him as like, I'm like, I don't fit in. So that goes back to the hero's journey. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's just willing to just follow the same shit. And, I don't want to get too far into this podcast without Craig,
Yeah, please.
oppose me the question. And I want to pose the question to you is like, what the fuck do you believe?
Wow.
Craig, what really is it about it, you know?
Well, you know what? And Robert, in a sense, you inspired me based on some previous discussions and videos that we've worked on together
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
shared and groups and things like that.
We not only love each other. I look at you as a family member, but when you can be vulnerable with somebody and just because you don't know, you're curious enough to give a shit.
Yeah.
See, I'm not that competitive person where I know I don't know. So I come from that. I'm not judgmental. So now when I ask Craig, well, tell me, what do you believe? Where did it come from? How do you think?
Mhm.
How do you think this is working? I can guarantee you I'm one of the few people on the planet, these two in visionary being the same, where someone will actually listen to you instead of trying to figure out a place to interrupt to tell you that you're messed up.
Yeah.
Harder to
Oh
come
no.
by nowadays.
Yeah, that's that. I've grown up with that, and I guess what I would say is I was raised Jewish. Okay, and there's a reason why I'm using the word raised Jewish,
Get it?
because in the formative years, and I know I've kind of brought this up, is you learn what supposedly to do, what not to do based on your parents and how supposedly they were raised and where they are at that particular time in life when you were born. And over the years, I've kind of thought, in a sense, like what you gentlemen have discussed about religion, it's like, wait a minute, if this, then why is this happening? Okay, in being general,
Sure.
in things. And I've come to believe that, and this may sound blasphemous to people, so I'm going to preface this uh, in the direction that I'm going. Because I have learned so many things, because I am a part of humanity, I consider myself maybe, okay, and here's another religion if you want to start one, a Jewish humanist. I am more
Wow.
I am more about, at least where I am in life. I have, because I was raised Jewish, but you and I, meaning the viewer or listener of this podcast, and you two gentlemen, are part of where I am right now. So I need to understand where you come from. I need
Right.
to relate to where you come, and where you guys relate, it goes with my beliefs in the way that I was raised. I was raised with an open mind. I was raised to think for myself. And it's sometimes it's great. Other times it's like, is this really right or
Yeah,
not?
no, I get that. I can relate with that. So it's
And
like it'd be easier if I could just conform. Why does my brain do this to me?
right,
Ah,
exactly.
nice,
And,
That's
nice.
sad.
even in the Jewish religion, there's several secular branches. Robert, you kind of alluded to that earlier in this podcast. I mean, there's the Orthodox Judaism, there's Reform Judaism, there's Reconstructionist Judaism, there's Conservative Judaism. I don't know what other branches are. And like you said, there's the Jews for Jesus and whatever. But it has come down, and I have only realized this recently. Okay. Given the A plus B plus C equals you or me, how do we not know that we are not God? Because we
Yeah.
take things differently, we interpret things our way, and in order to get through society, through humanity, we find people who we believe with and believe in and associate with, and others that we don't. So when I look at this, what am I seeing? I am seeing right now two gentlemen who maybe believe slightly differently than I do because of the way that I was raised, but I feel associated with because I can freely talk to them and they understand where I'm coming from. Okay. Now, does that mean that maybe Robert is not God in his own world, or Matt is not God in his own world? I don't know that. I only know that in my view, in my way, in my feeling, in my belief, how do I not know that I am God? Because I am the one that is affected by everything that I say and do and believe. Now, if other people believe the same way that I do, woohoo, fantabulous. Let's go, baby. Let's go. But do I, are they wrong? Because if they are not, if they are wrong in my eyes, then I'm just totally destroying everybody else who does not believe the same way that I do.
Yeah.
And that's the nice thing about religion in one regard. And I'll finish up on a little bit on this. I like the idea of religion if it teaches the person human morality.
Got it.
Okay. We have the 10 Commandments. Those are pretty basic across all religions. Now, that's not to say that, maybe there is some religion out there that does not believe in I am the Lord thy God,
Right.
or thou shalt not covet.
Yeah, or maybe
But
there should be a couple more commandments that are missing.
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Hey, I think it needs to be more specific.
Thou shalt not
Yeah.
have slaves. That's probably should be in there.
Right. But who determined, and that's the other thing, is who determined that we have the right to subserve or enslave others to our will and our belief and our being?
Yeah, I mean that's where it starts. I think that that's the thing is,
Totally.
as I've become more wise and read certain books by very wise people, one of the things that I had to come to terms with is that me trying to change someone else's experience is actually one of the most rudest things I could do to somebody.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, yes.
And it's more important for me to figure out how I can benefit the experience they're already having and fit into that than it is to change it
Yep.
and
My
meet
God,
people where they
yes.
are. And especially when it comes to spiritual things, because it's so specific to the person, because not everyone's going to want to read the whole Bible. Some people read it every day, all the time, and other people have never read the book and believe in it, right?
Exactly.
They've gotten the cliff notes on the book, right?
Right.
And so I
Or
meet them
sorry,
wherever
sorry,
they are. Go ahead,
sorry
Dad.
to interrupt you, Matt. Keep your thought. Or someone that says that they're connected with the entity that they worship, they heard, and so the rest follow.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not hearing and you're not connected, it's easy to listen to somebody. Hey, guess what I heard? God told me. And what?
Well,
Yeah.
even you wanting,
And
I
in,
would
and in
venture
my
this far.
definition, who is God?
Like,
God is me.
yeah, I would venture this far to say that if someone shows up and tells you God's talking to them and this is what you need to do, you've completely lost the experience for yourself.
Totally.
If you're, because the truth of the matter is the more in tune you are, the less you care to share it, because that's not really what it's built to be.
Bingo.
It's built to be a personal experience that you can share how it's benefited you and how important it could be to somebody else. But to say that it needs to be the same as yours is to say that every person's the same, which we all know is not true. Right?
My
The thing
way,
that,
or
the thing that,
highway kind of thought, when
right.
compromise is what moves everybody forward in a better way. It's kind of what we were talking about. It's like little bits of this and little bits of that
Yeah.
improve society every single day. Yes, we may not agree, but does the majority feel that this is the proper direction? Not the minority. And
Right.
that's where a lot of people get disillusioned, especially today, and especially in our politics, is we have a few people who are saying it should be this way, and they think that this is the right way to go. Well, no, it's not, because we are a plural nation. We have so many different influences, which is why the United States is as great a nation as it is because we've taken over the years this experiment, as people still call it, as Ben Franklin originally notified us as being an experiment. We've taken this and we've actually made something good out of it. Yes, there's things that are not quite right, but over the years, we have figured out a way to get through it and move beyond it based on consensus of humanity, based on, at this time, what we feel are laws that are human, not Christian, not Jewish, not Buddhist, but human, and what is for the best for our species.
Yeah.
I
I
love
mean,
people.
I agree with that.
Yeah. I love people that, and I shouldn't say the word love, but here's just Craig, thank you for sharing as well. While you're on, I wrote up here, just like you said, and it says, I said, how many Jewish religions are there? And it's like, under the Orthodox, there's modern, Harendi, Hersistic. You know what I mean? So it's like, so
Yeah.
Hasidic,
yeah.
yeah.
So then it's
Hasidic, yeah.
and it's conservative Judaism, Reform Judaism, Reconstructionist Judaism, Humanistic Judaism, Renewal Judaism, Aite Judaism, Sephardic Judaism.
Sephardic.
Yeah. And so there's one that has 3 subtitles, branches in that, and then there's another 8. I was when we wrote down how many Bibles there were, I'm finding it interesting right now that that hey, if I hear from God, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just so I can throw this out here, this all came about because of a person. I'll give him a quick shout out.
Take 2.
I'll give him a shout out. It just basically, when we were on an AMA, asked me, who is God, and what is God? And I answered the way I felt at that moment, because I didn't know he was going to answer the question. I just come from my heart. After thinking about it, when people reach out to me now, Here's what I totally believe. I don't know, and neither do you.
I
I
actually
don't
like that as a response. Yeah.
I don't know, and neither do you. Because here's something that I want people to really think about. When you look at all the promises of the religion that you stand for, it's very, very weird why people don't follow what basically that religion told you to do.
Hmm.
So people go, I don't understand my purpose, and I don't know the meaning of life, and I don't know my passion. No, it's written in the book that you proclaim is the word of whatever. All right. And here's what it says: go on AI. I've done this, and go according to this one of these 20 things that we're looking at.
Or 40
according,
now.
yeah, according to this, what is my purpose? Live by example, love yourself, and love others. Well, the humanity called America and the humanity that we call the world doesn't even have the same definition of the word love. So the deeper that I dug is when you read the Bible or another book, what does God say is? Wow. Instead of just saying, I think I'm going to call you whoever, what does God say? I am that I am. I am what I am. No, is there another name for you? Now, we also know that he created man in his image according to the stories. For that to be true, Adam and Eve were both male and female. So there's a lot of people that are going, he. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure the transgender group, not making a joke, came up with if you're a he, she, what is that word?
They. I mean, you could go with you could go by they.
Or
You
how
could
do
go
we
by
know that it's not like Gaia in some other religions, mother? How do we know that
It,
it's
Well,
yeah.
believe it or not, like when I did my and this is why I do, I'm not going to recommend it to everybody, but as psilocybin and magic mushrooms get more popular and start being utilized in therapy and all these benefits, there's so many documentaries and shit about this.
Yeah.
But for me, I really did feel that from it. It's interesting because even when you say like humans were made in God's image and they and all these things, right? When I had that experience, I felt the mother nature feeling, the peace and the love, but I did not feel any of the judgment. I did not feel any of the worry about afterlife, what was going to happen to me based off my decisions. Yep. It was as simplistic as I was an animal that was on the planet with the rest of us, and all of us are connected. It's all the same thing.
Every living thing you feel this connection with. And that is what I call that entity.
I think that's where it hit for me too, as it was like, oh, now I can see this as something that I can see as my future and give me a great sense of peace. And I'll even say this to my wife because we had that experience together. But it will be like, we'll start being stressed and anxious. And then we'll be like, remember that experience. Just try to remember that experience.
Yeah.
And it's like, immediately you can see why in some documentaries they use it with terminally ill cancer patients and stuff. And they call it ego death. And the reason that it's called ego death is because you stop adding so much fucking significance to yourself. You see yourself as nothing. Part of and that's nothing. Not a bad thing. It's a great thing because instead it's the connection to all things. It's the connection
you are
to
you.
You start caring for other people more, regardless of what they believe. You start understanding people more, not being mad at them as much because you know that they are you. And it's interesting because there's even this one story called The Egg. You can look it up because somebody animated it. It's a very, very great story. And it's about like that whole experience with God, that you're actually an egg and every single person on this planet is you. And the way that you treat them, the way that you act around them, these are all things that are not a test. They're lessons. You're not going to fail. It's lessons. And so when you get to the end of whatever this is, you're reborn again, and God speaks to you, whatever that is, Mother Nature, Mother, love. And he speaks to you and goes, you've learned some of these lessons, but some of these people you are absolutely the cruelest and the meanest to. You did not learn all the lessons. Therefore, you need to be reborn and figure out peace and love again. Do it again. You're not ready to move to the next step of what this
some of the religions
is.
do believe that. I believe Hindu and Buddhist religions.
Well, yeah,
are,
there's
if you're following the religion angle of this, is what I'm going for. That the idea, especially in Hinduism, the idea of reincarnation, which is why they don't kill cattle.
Well,
it's very sacred to them.
Cattle are God.
Yeah.
Like Indians.
But see, I would say that even is like adding a level of weight to cows that shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Cows are just as important. So I think
exactly.
And you eating them is the same.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if you are a vegan or anything like that, like I get that might be your journey, and I respect that a lot. But at the same time, at the same time, I also come from the place of I look out my backyard, and you can say, oh, you could eat plants, and there's a million excuses or reasons why I don't. But I could look out in my backyard and see nature taking its course. Yeah. Right in the flowers and everything. Those bees are freaked out and pollinating as fast as they can and getting out of the way because why? The birds are hunting them. Right? Mm-hmm. And you can see that happen. You can see all of them disappear the moment the birds show up. There's rabbits that are running under the plants to keep cover from what? The hawks that will get them. So to say that there's this large thing at play, and what we try to do is try to meddle in it, like we're the gods of this whole entire planet, right? And
but that isn't that where the ego comes from?
Well, it's interesting because one of the things
the ego comes from. Matt, I know a little more about this than you.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of those things.
I got this figured out. But why are all of us willing to admit, because of science or whatever, it's easy for every individual that watches this video, regardless of your belief, that I guarantee you look at me and you look at you and you go, I am not you. I am not you. Because we know we got different DNA. We know our environment was different, our way that we brought up, our experiences. All this stuff makes us very unique until it comes to my belief. And you need to believe like I do, or I hate you. But if we don't get to the belief, then we're okay with each other.
That goes back to like you've shared this stuff you don't talk about when you go to like you meet new people or you're in a new group. Like no one, and I've joked and said this is actually flipped in my generation where you show up to the barbecue and they immediately go, oh, well, who are you voting for? And it's like Donald Trump and half the barbecue leaves. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because it's become so individualistic that if you don't believe in one thing that I really importantly believe in, then you're out. Like I can't work with you because if you do this or that, then that means you're all of these things, right? And it's like it's interesting because back when I was more militant in my like atheism, that was how I labeled all Christian people. It's like, okay, so you're Christian, so you're anti-women or anti-abortion or anti-this or that.
Matt would go after him. Matt would study to go after him to trip them up.
I was good at it. Well, that's because to me, I was doing the right cause because I was part of a group of other people this wasn't my own personal belief. I was part of message boards on Reddit and all these things of other people that were atheists going, Christianity is ruining the world. Religion is ruining the world. Mm-hmm. If we didn't have religion, imagine we'd be in space. We'd have space stations. We'd have all this shit, right? Like I really prescribed to that idea, and it was just another religion, right? Called atheism at the time, but it was another religion going, oh no, like our idea is the right idea.
Yeah.
And what I did was just become exactly the same as those Christians, militantly in my own belief, going, If you believe this, then you're doing harm to the planet. You're doing harm to humanity. And the reality is I'm at the point now where I could give a fuck. Like, it's not for me to decide. Exactly
It's
like you're
so
saying.
refreshing. It's so refreshing to just say the simple words and believe this. I'm unique because of my DNA. No one else in the world's like me. So why can't I have a unique belief system? Why can't I go through life in the hero's journey and I thought this way and I no longer think this way? And I used to
Mhm.
think this was the shit. Like Matt, I'm not perfect. So there's times where, I, for lack of better words, would bitch slap people that just were so stuck in their beliefs. But that's not why I'm here. That's
Right.
not why I'm here.
No.
And so I just want to be one of those people that, because here's one other idea that I am still working on. See, I like this concept that I don't know, and I know you don't know. And I just know that I spend a lot of dedicated time in my life connecting to whatever that is. So when you look at the Albert Einsteins or the Elon Musk or it's one thing that a majority of the people that I know that are the smartest people in the world are, and this, I mean this statement, Matt's one of those people. I've known it since he's been born, is that how you can get that person to say that they're not a believer is because of your definition. See,
Mm.
so when people question people that are connected and they're impacting the world, they're changing things, their lives are getting better. They know your definition and title of what they feel and do is not what your definition is.
Well, I feel like that was the
Yes.
confusion I had when I was younger, is that I would see people connect like you do, and I would go, doesn't feel that way for me.
Right.
He looks like he could, run through a brick wall right now. And I haven't felt that feeling from this, and I'm doing the same things. Where is
Yeah.
that? And it
Yeah.
wasn't until, like I shared my experience earlier, it wasn't until I had my own experiences and figured out what that is before I was like, oh shit, I can run through my own brick walls. I wasn't meant to run through his. Like
Amen.
and if
Amen.
you wanted to see, like, if you wanted to call it God or one whole thing, I think that's kind of the point. Is it's like Craig said, it's a personal journey. It's your personal experience. Like, you're the star of your own movie, right?
Totally.
And you
Totally.
need to see it that way in your belief system, in the way that you run your life, everything like that, and respect other people doing the same with their lives. And don't respect, I'm going to say this is a bold statement, don't respect people that don't do that.
Why would
Like, they're
you?
not worth they're not worth your time to argue with. This is
Exactly.
something I've learned growing up. Even as my beliefs have changed, if someone goes, your beliefs are stupid and I don't think that, and I think that you're going to burn in hell and you're wrong, which I've gotten lately. Because I'm open with what I believe.
Right.
So you have people that will reach out to you and say those things, but at the same time, I don't fight with them or anything. I meet them where they
Right.
are and I go,
Mhm.
it's just not personal for them yet.
No,
It's not
here's the
personal. It's still all of us. It's still, I need to change
yeah.
everyone's minds.
Right.
I need to bring you over. It's not personal enough for them yet to go, I don't need to do this. It's
Right.
for
Yeah,
me to
It's like
experience.
and what's
Right.
wrong with celebrating other people's beliefs and religions and things that they
I think
honor
if we
and
did that,
celebrate?
that would definitely help quite a bit.
Oh
yeah,
my
it's
God.
like
I love Christmas carols, okay? I love going I would go out
I love
Christmas
Christmas in general.
caroling. Yeah.
hey,
I love the
you've been
feeling.
an actor in the Christmas Carol.
Yes, I have. Bah, humbug.
But I grew up
No.
with Harry Potter. There's a
Yeah,
large group of Christians that won't touch Harry Potter because
exactly.
it's witchcraft. And then on top of that, like, I grew up playing violent video games. There's a large group of people that say that is wrong. I grew up consuming a lot of the internet and media. There's a large group of people that will say that's the wrong way to go. So, like,
There's a yin and yang to everything.
right.
Everything.
Yeah, and I think that that's the thing, is it's like now I'm looking back and it's like I didn't make mistakes, I made choices.
Ooh.
And I think like that then gives me less fear of moving forward, and that comes from that spiritual place too, that I'm making choices, not mistakes. And as I move forward, I'm just making another choice, and it's not a permanent. No, there are no permanent choices.
No.
No,
You're
no.
making a
Right?
choice based on your experience and the values that you have at this point in time.
Exactly.
And
Both of
it
you
could have
guys
been
have been
it could have been
married
totally
before,
different yesterday.
right?
Yeah.
Both of you guys have been married before and have had more than one relationship. I guess you could say I'm incredibly lucky that that hasn't been my experience. I've only had one partner, and we're going on 10 years now. So lucky me. But I,
Congratulations.
but
Well,
you
wait
guys
a
had to
minute.
learn
Wait a
what you
minute.
didn't
Wait a
want
minute.
or
Wait a minute.
wanted in a partner.
How old was Hannah when she got married?
19.
Your wife.
Very, yes.
That's way too early.
I think if you asked me and her, you know, there's young people that would go, wow. Like the joke that always comes up is they go, so how long have you guys been married? And it's like, well, we're almost 10 years. And of course we look youngish, right? I say she looks young. I look youngish because I'm getting older. But the number one thing that comes up is like, well, how many kids do you guys have? Because like the immediate assumption was, oh, she was
You had to
19.
get married.
We had to get married. Like
Right.
she's pregnant. We had to move on. We had to get married and do these things. It's like, no, we still don't have children yet.
Right.
Right. We had all this time where it was just us growing
Well,
up.
what's
And thank
taking you
God.
so long, Matt? Come on.
Well, thank God I was growing up. I wouldn't have been a great parent to the kids as I would be now. You know, like
can you hurry up and make me a grandpa?
you already are. So
Yeah.
Right.
I was waiting for that one.
Your mom,
Junior and Amy.
Can you make your mom a grandma?
I know she's going to be freaking out when that does happen. But
isn't it
does
funny
come from
how
that
fast,
place, so.
how fast, regardless if we're talking, because I do want to, I don't know why, this would be a great question for everybody out there, is why does everybody have to do what you think is right? That's just so bizarre because I mess people up. The way I mess people up is very simply telling me, "Hey, could you really quickly just describe to me your perfect day? I want you to tell me I want you to share with me the imagination for you and the people that you love. Can you tell me what you're going for?" And now I know why people smarter than me, like Mark Twain, said, I can help anyone get what they want in life, but I just can't find anybody that knows what they want. But we do know one thing that we want. We want you to think like me. That's something I want. I want you to act and do the shit that I think is okay. Are you following that? I'm not talking about me. I'm saying I got these set of rules and ways that a person should live. And if you're not doing these traditions and these things, then you're messed up. I don't know if you guys realize that the biggest thing behind Jehovah's Witnesses when I was young, like Matt, when I was young, is I got a book and I don't like reading. I got a book on how to witness to a Jehovah's Witness. Because those people, when they go out door to door, are prepared. You let them in your house and they're prepared. And me and Matt have laughed about this a lot because there's another book out there that talks about how to make a cult.
Right.
How to make a cult. Well, if you understand how one is made, you can understand how to uncult yourself, right?
Well, yeah, they almost call it like in those how to make a cult things. It's like how to unmake a person and remake them in the image. You want. Like it very in detail. Like
here's the four things. And when you think about this, I know I'm not saying religion does this, but I'm just saying that when you're building a cult, this is what you do. Step one, you basically tell the individual that there's nothing wrong with them and it's not their fault. Oh boy. Because it's your upbringing. Your parents didn't have an owner's manual. Your pastor, your priest, your rabbi, they didn't get an owner's manual. So all the things that sucks in your life right now, including your mental health, is not your fault.
Right.
It's not your fault. Second thing is you get to love up on them. Craig, you know what? Here,
You're
you're
accepted.
accepted exactly the
Mm,
way you are. We're not
Yep.
yep.
asking you to change. We don't need you to do certain things. We don't need you to not eat bacon. It's like all that stuff is basically things that people, we're just going to accept you for who you are. Now, there's nothing better than saying, oh, it's not my fault. You love me for who I am. I don't need any more of this.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
even
like,
yeah.
dump that on. Jump,
Right.
babe, I'll take more of that. Are you guys showing up on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday? Because I feel loved and accepted here, and it's not my fault, and I can grow here. The next one is just now that they're loved, the third step is just to put some things into their heart and their mind where they get aha moments on what they've been lied about.
It's time to wake up. Wake
Yeah,
up to the
your parents
Yeah.
didn't mean to do this, but they thought education was the best way, and they thought the best way is to get the degree and then work 40 hours a week for 40 years and get a gold watch. I'm sorry that they said that to you, and it's like, God damn it, you know what I mean? And then I don't want to bring this up, but there's this thing about the tooth fairy. And some people, Santa, and what do you remember when you found out? See, people lied to you because their parents lied to them. It's just what happens. And it's like, oh my god, so everything that I've heard from school and my rabbi and my priest, it's like this is all lies. Yeah. Oh my God, my whole life is built on lies. Now what?
got some truth.
We got some truth for you, man. We
We're gonna
got
shovel
some
it
truth.
on you.
And guess what? Oh my God. It was written in ancient books. Have you heard of The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Waddle, written in 1910? And Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And now I get to throw up on you on shit where you go, why haven't I heard of any of this stuff? Well,
It was
because
kept from you.
it was a secret. It was a
Only
I'm
secret.
laughing
certain
because it's
people
like,
can know.
Only this little group of people know the real secret, and
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 who else
uh
knows? Some of these people at the tippity top, they know.
oh
That are
They
part of
know.
our group.
They can't outwardly say it, but they are.
oh my
It sounds
God.
like we are. I bet you there's people watching and they're like, wait, what are you guys pitching? What is it?
Yeah, it's like, please give me the name and where I can sign up. and
Right,
and
exactly.
um but one of the things that I even know from some of my mentors like Jim Rohn, if you really listen to these people that were exposed to different wisdom that doesn't work for all, it is another hero journey. I believe if you grew up during Luke Skywalker's life, not everyone was pursuing being a Jedi. If the rest of the people were serving him in that crazy bar and they were fixing his spaceship, there are other people that have different things to do, right?
Mhm.
But his journey was to become a Jedi and try to find his father and figure out what the hell's going on. So one of the things when we were just talking, because I want to give you guys another totally thing on my recent search about my connection. All right. When I seen how many different names there are, and now today talking about how many different religions there are and how many beliefs there are, it really became very clear to me that, like Craig brought up, probably threw people for a loop, what Matt said, throw little people for a loop, right? It's because it says in all of them that the seeker finds. The seeker finds. And so here's something that I want to throw out to every one of you. because you listen to a certain individual that you made a decision. You made the personal decision that this is the know it of all. This is the pre what did the guy that just recently died in Iran? He was actually called the premium emperor or something. When I
Prime
read the
Emperor.
title, when what, Matt?
I don't know what it is either, but I said
Oh,
Prime Emperor maybe.
But when I
no.
I have
heard
to
his
look.
title, when I heard his
It was
title,
like Game
I
of
was
Thrones.
going right away. Yeah, you mentally go, what? What? It's
Right.
like the
The supreme
supreme,
being.
Supreme leader.
supreme. What is
Supreme
it?
leader. Yeah.
Supreme leader.
Yeah. So when someone says, "Oh my God, this guy died. He's the supreme emperor," they're like, huh? And I tell
Yeah.
people all the time, here's the funniest one for me is when Barbara Walters, you guys can still find this on YouTube. When Barbara Walters found the top person of every religion she could find. And the whole title of the whole 2020 was what is heaven? Today we've been talking about what this entity is or who is this. And I loved when she went to the Dalai Lama. It was the best one, man. And she went to the Dalai Lama and she said, "Am I allowed?" And I believe this is what they call them. She says, "Am I allowed to touch the chosen one?" You know what I mean?
Hmm.
The entity, the know it of all, right? And he's going, "Not only can you touch me, you can hug me." And she goes, "Wow, that's interesting." He goes, "Why is that?" And when he talks, he's so full of peace and so full of joy. You know what I mean? He's just, this person that is at peace. And he's like, who told you that? Who told you that you wasn't allowed to touch me? And she goes, I don't know where I heard that. Okay, that's the majority of everything you're going to run into. It's just
Hmm.
our thoughts that someone said or maybe something. And then she said, "Oh, awesome." So she hugged him and she said, "So, I have some questions for you." And she said, "So you're the one. According to the beliefs, you're the one, the perfect one." And he goes, "I have no idea what I'm doing tomorrow. There's a whole group of people that tell me where to go, who I'm meeting, and what am I like, and to just interact with them. So the know it of all, I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow."
That's honesty though, and that should
Exactly.
honestly, I love leaders like that, and I want to be one of
So
those myself.
yeah,
You're one of
so
those,
humble.
obviously, Dad.
And
But
then she went,
that's
and then
so
she went
true.
to him. Yeah, and then she went to him. "So you're perfect." And he goes, "Yeah, that's why I'm wearing glasses."
Oh, I remember seeing that one.
And it's like,
Yes.
oh, you're falling more in love with this guy every day. And then every minute. And she says, "So you're the chosen one." And he goes, "That's always been a mystery to me. There's something in my tradition and belief where a group of people get together and they're given a sign of what village this newborn male is living in. And so they show up in the village. They said that they know where it is. I don't know how, but then they go to tent to tent to tent looking for the newest born male. Winner. He's like,
Yeah.
"So how did I get here?" There was a group of people that made up their mind that I was the guy.
Didn't Scorsese direct a movie about this? Kuntoon? Isn't that what it's called? Am
I've
I
never
wrong?
heard of it.
I don't recall.
I'm gonna look it
Wow,
up.
Matt.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you do that?
But I'm sure that something like that, well, something like that is explored anyways. I mean,
Right.
okay, I may be blasphemous to the Christians and everything like that, but how do we know that that's not Jesus? These three wise men who traveled the desert to find this little boy
Yeah.
who a star apparently lined itself up and said,
Wait, wait,
boom.
wait, 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 Craig. Jehovah Witnesses believe the star was sent to assassins to kill Jesus.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Get your story right.
Okay, so
So
then I guess that means that whatever the star was
Wait,
missed,
I
and because it missed,
I know we're being
he
incredibly
became the
blasphemous
chosen
here, but
one?
I was gonna say, wait, did you guys read a different version of the book than I did? That wasn't in my book. I must have got the wrong one from the
Yeah,
library.
Jehovah Witnesses, when we talked about the cult thing, right? All right. So when
Kundun, by
Jehovah's
the way, was the
Witnesses,
movie Kundun, and it is Kundun, and it is by Martin Scorsese, and it is the life of the Dalai Lama since he was a kid
oh,
chosen.
wow.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's got what 7 out of 10 on IMDb.
Okay.
Might be worth a watch, huh?
Yeah.
So just to close this up with that concept, is she interviewed all of these people, and here's the last one, the title of what she was interviewing. So she asked them all these questions, and why is this way, and da 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 da, and she says, "So do you have to be a Hindu to go to heaven?" Don't know. She went to every religion, the highest ranking rabbi, if there is such a thing, even the highest ranking Catholic, a pope. I think she did it, the interview with a pope too. And she goes through all these religions, and everyone went, I don't know, except the evangelist Christian. Everyone else didn't know, but the evangelist Christian knew that everybody else other than his little tribe is going to hell. And I just found that interesting, because the thing that always bothered me as I grew up is I went, a billion Buddhists are next. They're just next. The Jews are next, except for that small segment that are Jews for Christian.
Jews for
There is a
Christ.
segment in there
Jews
that
for Jesus.
Jews for Jesus, yeah.
all the Muslims are toast. And I'm just like, in my mind, this entity, which is, believe it or not, why I went from religion to religion, is every one of them, especially in the Christian faith, Lutherans, is, here was my thing. My ex-wife was a Lutheran. I didn't have one yet. So we got to go meet him to get qualified to get married.
Like the pastor, the priest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So me and her have to meet, and he has to interview us before we even can get married. Well, she's already pregnant, so that's the reason that we got married. And so he's doing these things, and I'm going like, wow, that just doesn't make any sense to me. And he kept saying, I understand. So then it came down to baptism, right? Or christening, depending on the belief that you're in. And I said, make me understand this. And he says, well, when a child is born, they have no concept of Jesus. So they have no concept of sin. So we need to give them a christening or a baptism. So if something happens between now and the time that they become old enough to understand who Jesus is, that they don't go to heaven, they go to this middle place called
Purgatory.
Purgatory, yeah.
So my mind went, so the creator that created my son gets put in a no zone unless this happens. And he goes, yeah. And I just went, that's not the God I serve. I don't,
Yeah, I mean it's yeah.
I don't believe in whatever you call God. I look at it as an entity that allows free will, and he's not intervening in any way, shape, or form. He's not making bad things happen and giving little kids cancer. He's not helping out with the war on one side or the other. He's not taking a group of people that believe in him and blessing them a little more than the ones that don't hear from him. Okay. Let me give you what this is, right? So, my thoughts are if you look at the whole universe and everything that's in it, the scientists say 78% of everything is really nothing. It's matter. They call it dark matter. And so, in that dark matter, you got this neutron and this proton and this neutron, and they zip around each other like you would not believe, which is exactly the way planets and stars whip around the sun and other planets and other galaxies.
It's
So when we see
microscopic. Yeah.
when we see a black hole or we see the universe now with the Webb telescope, oh my
James Webb
God.
telescope.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
it's like, what the I mean, we just keep getting more information, right? And so if this dark matter is in everything, solid, liquid, air, now you guys can understand my science stuff talking, right? There's the three elements. How can you take one element that looks correct on the element table and you give it a little bit of heat, it turns into steam. You cool it off a little bit, it turns into a solid. You leave it alone, it's air. Wait. So we're talking about water, H2O. You can actually change the temperature and it changes into three different things,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
they're all the same thing. Wait a minute. One element changed the thing into three different things. And so, in the midst of all this, is that 78% blackness, darkness that no one knows.
The in between.
Yep. So still to this point, there's something holding this together. And I AI'd this and also Googled it to back it up. Do you know that every scientist on the planet, even though Albert Einstein figured out relative gravity, that the formula that he put together, that he said he imagined, that he pulled in what he called it, the ether. He didn't know what to call it. He's not calling it God. But he says, I constantly imagine me on a light beam. And on that light beam, I'm being shot into the universe. And I understand through that imagination that you can slow down light and you can also bend it. And so we all look at this thing that we call time, but anything that gets even 1,000 miles away from us is at a different time. If you looked at all the satellites that are right now in our orbit, they put them there because there's still a little bit of gravity. But if you looked at a normal globe that we had in school, they're less than 3 dimes. 3 dimes stacked on each other. That's how far they're in our universe. And everybody goes, we're launching rockets into the universe. No, you haven't.
Oh, yes. The cosmos is so dangerous.
They're still hanging around in this, and you see the billionaire rocket people, right? And the Jeff Bezos and the
Elon Musk and
Richard Branson.
And Branson, yeah.
Now they're getting 1 dime. They're going up 1 dime. The space station is in 2 dimes. So everyone talks about this universe, and we've been, this far off our planet. And we're like, whoa, this is some crazy stuff.
Well, if you look at the perspective from like Men in Black, I think it was the Men in Black 2, we're living in a locker in someone else's universe.
Well, that's
or
why
we are a marble
on a collar of a cat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I love concepts like that because the truth is exactly where you started, Dad, when you're talking about molecules and all of these things and atoms and even breaking those atoms down. You start to slowly realize that it's all running not the same, but it's like it's all the same elements, right?
Yeah.
What's so interesting about, like, if you really do love and care about science, and it's interesting because some people would say that it's like some of the shit's blasphemous, right? Too, since we've been using that word. But I truthfully love knowing that if you took a microscope and looked all the way down that there's a creature living at that scale, and then if you took it all the way out, which only so far we can go now, right?
That we're aware of.
That we're aware of.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny to me because there's a whole nother subject, and we don't have to get into it. But it's like you could say aliens are real and have visited us, and no one cares anymore. But you know, you could have the government say that, and everyone's like, "Oh shit, that happened," whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I find it fascinating that you can keep zooming out and zooming out, or zooming in and zooming in, and there's fucking creatures living on my eyelids right now, feeding off of the tear ducts, and that might creep you out. It creeps me out. I have OCD. It creeped me out for a while, right? But you accept it, and it's something that you just don't normally think about. But you don't accept that our world is massive to us, but your body is massive to a whole nother set of bacteria and creatures that on the microscopic level, you are their earth, you are their life, you are their ecosystem.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And we, for some reason, completely forget that we're the exact same thing for the earth.
Yep.
And that we're part of the ecosystem. And what it's fucked up to say for some people, but one thing that the mushroom experience gave me is when I came out of that experience, I remember feeling a certain way about the environment, or a certain way about all this stuff, right? Because I was a little bit younger than I am now. I haven't done it in a long time. But what I realized is I was like, oh shit, like we're destroying the environment, but we, humanity, are nature. So in a sense, it's just nature doing what it does.
Totally.
Yeah.
As much as you want to like try to intervene, or as much as you want to try to do it, there was a meteor that hit the planet millions of years ago that changed the way that it worked. If we no longer survive the damage that we do to the planet, whether we leave it or whether we stay on it and figure it out, the planet's going to be here regardless for another couple billions of years until the death of the sun, right? So I think, and even that, right? Like by the time we get there, we might make an artificial one to keep the earth going. but I love this talk. I know we've already been going for almost 2 hours now, so I don't know if you guys want to have closing thoughts, because I know we have another meeting going on here in another hour.
Yeah, so we do.
we all need a break. So, you know, the only other place that you could finish up with what I just said was, you know, to think that all the best scientists in the planet still cannot explain gravity. They can measure it. We all know that's there. We just have no clue. It's like Wi-Fi. You know, it's like people are like, I don't know how. So there's a lot of theories and hypotheses of where they've tried to, you know, disprove Albert Einstein's, you know, relative gravity.
Theory of relativity.
Yeah. And have not been able to disprove it. So my thing is, I've always said to Matt, my kids, that I admire people that were innovators and people that thought different. And I love that everyone around. So this is where I believe religion and your beliefs come from. And that's what I'll leave you with. But, you know, my one of my first mentors, Roger Penske, you know, sort of embarrassed me in a nice way in front of a group of people. And he asked me how I knew something that I brought up in the conversation. I was trying to be my ego and wanting to be accepted and wanted to prove that I was worthy and enough to be in this group, even though they hired me because of my accolades. I wanted to fit in. So he would ask the group all the time, 70 some of us mechanics, engineers, is, you know, have you come up with some thoughts? Think about that. A multi-billionaire is asking a group of kids that are working for him, try to come up with some ideas and some thoughts and some imagination of how we could make these cars better. And he always said this: we need to be better, we need to be faster, and we need to be safer. Those are three things. We keep our sponsors because of our speed, our qualifying, and the way that we rank. And that's important. But if something happens, I don't want to make someone fatherless. I don't want to make someone a widow. And he always said that. It makes me emotional how, how this guy has created so many leaders because of the way he is, right? And so I overheard another crew talking about something they were doing at their car. I brought it up and he said, Robert, how do you know that? And I go, what do you mean? Jim Joe Bob from Texas brought it up at it. And he's going, no, he says, I understand that it sounds like a neat concept to you. But were you wearing your uniform? I said, yeah, we all went to the bar after the races. So a competitor seeing you and your uniform and you just overheard a secret. And I was like, what? He goes, maybe they were sharing something with you to get us off track. I never thought of that. And he goes, don't, that's okay. So just tell me the research that you did. Tell me the things that you went through to either prove or disprove this theory. I ain't got nothing. What if everybody did that about everything in their lives? And that's where the title of this book came from. So people come to me all the time. Let me tell you what I'm doing. Are you happy? Are you fulfilled? Are you financially free? Are you connected to whatever this ether is without listening to someone else tell you what to do? Are you connected with your children? Are you connected with your spouse? Do you love you? Do you love you? No. I don't need to hear the shit you're doing. I don't know why people want to reach out to me. Let me tell you what I'm doing. Is it working? No. Let's not talk about that. That's the way my mentor was to me. There's no reason for you to tell me why your life sucks. This is what I'm doing, and I don't like my life. Can I share it with you? No. Why don't you just listen to someone? So my closing for the concept of this darkness that connects everything, that no one knows why. That ether, the thing that's in all things, and in the in the science of getting rich, the phrase, the energy that permeates, penetrates every single thing is out there. And it's like, I believe in that because I believe when you said I'm God, Craig, I believe I wouldn't call it God. I now wanted to change. I said, if everybody else can come up with their name, I'm going to come up with my own name. And now I call that the master imaginator.
Right. Which
The
you've been
master,
using.
the master imaginator decided that he was going to create a bunch of stuff, including me and you. And now we just need to duplicate that. We need to be creators of our own life. We need to be creators of our own fulfillment. We got to stop acting and being other people and following other people because of their accolades. That's where that shit comes from, where people go, would you rather be close to your family or have money? See, no one's smart enough to say, you know what? I'm taking both. I'm choosing both. There's a number of areas in my life, and I need to get gooder and gooder at each one of them. And I'm not no longer need someone to tell me that I don't know what that connection that I have with that, the master imaginator. So I know it's in all and is all. And I don't need your interpretation or the person that you listen to tell me what I'm connected to. And my last closing thing is is I believe again that I don't know. I believe that you don't know, but my instincts tell me that the more I love myself, the more I'm connected to it. The more I believe that if I'm tapped into this consciousness of everything that's been here and everything that will be here, I know that I have the ability to connect to that consciousness, and that makes me fulfilled. That makes me love myself. That makes me want to be the best father. It makes me want to be the best husband. It makes me want to be the best friend. And that's my close.
Sorry, I got a corgi, but
Oh no,
that was
that's just
amazing, Dad.
yeah. Nothing
I
nothing can follow that.
honestly, you always have like the best endings to like wrap it all up. But
Yeah.
like the only thing that I would say is like figure out what you love to believe and then also just believe in yourself. Like that's such a huge part of it. Trust
Yeah.
yourself and what you believe and what is for you. And that's the only advice that I'd have to end this up. So thank you guys so much for being on here. Craig, do you have any last words?
The Robert, you have shared something that visually I'm going to show, but I've reinterpreted it a little bit where it's you are unique, spelled
I love that.
YOUNIQUE. But the other thing is that we have to do to ourselves as we wrap this up. I
Yes.
am enough. I am enough. Believe in yourself. Believe in what you feel. Believe in what you've learned. Believe in what you uh, are. Be accepting of others and live life to the fullest.
And now I do have to add one little thing. In my opinion, what you just said, Craig, if you guys want to know why you're not happy, why you're not fulfilled, why you're not financially free, why your health is a mess, is because you fucking don't trust yourself anymore. So you listen to everybody else. And when you attempt to do what other people believe, it's not for you. It's not fucking meant for you. So you try this fucking diet, you try this book, you try this course, you try this belief or religion. You're constantly looking and seeking, but what you're doing is you're following other fucking people. You're not following you. So Jim Rohn said, Robert, yeah, work harder on you than you work on anything. So when you guys run into people like myself that has worked this freaking hard on finding what the truth is for me, not you, me, it might inspire you because other people are not doing it. My son and my wife and people really close to me have always joked with me for years. Dad, if you ever started a religion, game over. Game over. That would be, and we've used the word blasphemy. You know what I mean? What's the definition of that? The definition of that is you being Jonathan Livingston Seagull. You haven't watched the movie, go watch it or read the book. It's the one person that we constantly admire that doesn't want to be like fucking anybody else. He's going, seagulls eat garbage and eagles are shit. And I mean, I'm sorry, seagulls. Seagulls are garbage. Seagulls are shit. No one gives a shit about seagulls. Seagulls eat all the garbage. And one seagull went, I want to be an eagle. Who said that we can't fly this fast? I want to be an eagle. And just like every story out there, all of a sudden his parents are asking him to straight his shit up. Why are you causing so many problems? Why are you talking in groups of people, groups of other seagulls about you're going to do something great? Why can't you just get in line and follow, do the tradition, shut the fuck up? You're an embarrassment to us. And he's like, no. And of course, he went through their hero's journey because when he picked up speed, he got confidence. He picked up speed, he got confidence. He picked up speed, got confidence. He picked up speed, almost killed himself. It's like went a little too far. Got like Mario Andretti. The day that you to say that you're in control is you're not going fast enough. And
Hmm.
so now what everybody do? See, I told you you'd fill out that business. You need to get a job, man. You need to be like everybody else, just get in line. You almost killed yourself. You proved us all right. Now it's time to give up. Get in line. And it's like, no, the imagination is still there. I know what I did wrong. I on that last trip, just a little too cocky, a little too confident, wasn't doing the precautions that I needed. I'm gonna get there again and I'm gonna go faster. What's the moral of the story? He pulled it off. He goes back to the tribe and they exiled him. Hey, now that you converted yourself into an eagle and not a follower, get the fuck out of here.
But that's the way it works, though, right?
Yeah. Why was every leader assassinated? I'll just leave that alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the person that, really works on themselves and figures out how to get connected and leads by example inspires a group of people that go against the will of the people that
Right.
are already there. And they don't like that. It's like,
Yeah, call me a hippie if you want, but I would absolutely say that's the reason psilocybin is illegal, even though it doesn't hurt you or kill you or anything. The reason that mushrooms are illegal, LSD, obviously that's chemical compounds and stuff. I've never tried that, so I have no opinion on that, but mushrooms come from the ground, right? And so it's like, the reason that that's illegal is it expands your mind on such a level that if it was more commonplace, the world would be a different place.
yes.
And because of that, I'm not telling you all to go out and seek it yourself. It's going to be your own experience, just like it was for me. But I think those things that open you up to self are kept as far away from you as possible. And here's my cult shit, like talking about it was kept far away from you as possible on purpose.
Yeah.
Because truthfully, you discovering what it is for you and what makes you happy and excited makes you an unstoppable person in a lot of controlling people's eyes. And that's scary. And that's where the assassination thing comes in.
I got to scare you. I have to scare you every day. I need to scare the shit out of you. So you don't know how you're going to protect yourself. So you let me do it for you.
Yeah, they're hoping, and like I said, back to the cult stuff, we can close with this, but they're hoping that you dig into the animal survival side of your brain and not your mind that can look at it objectively and go, this isn't for me. Like they're hoping that the survival aspects of your animal brain connect with their message enough that you go, this is a life or death situation, because that's where anxiety comes from. And that is this exact spot that they want you in. Like that's the easiest place to control people, because truthfully, an animal that's has its back up against the corner will fight to survive. And if you're thinking politically right now, whether one person wins or the other in the United States, that your back's up against the wall, that's by design. Like they want you to think that your back's up against the wall and that you have no choice. Because truthfully,
you do know whatever one gets elected, 50% of the people in America knows that the world is ending.
Well, yeah, that's been the case for like before I was born, and before you guys were born.
Yep.
If that other guy gets elected, the country we live in is no longer. And it's like, really?
I remember when that was. I remember when that was Obama, and then I remember when that was Trump, and then I remember when that was Biden, and now we're just back to the Trump-Biden thing. So, like, truthfully, like, yes, shit could go good or bad, depending on how you believe if one person's the president or the other one. But then 10 years will go by, and they won't be anymore, and things will change incrementally in the positive like they always do. So...
Why is there two groups of people and everything? You talk about any president that's ever been on this planet, and one group says they're the worst president, and the other group says they're the best president.
Right.
True. So why would you be competitive with an ego and say, you know what? I know what the best religion is.
Right.
Another divider, right?
Exactly.
Just another divider. The people that are educated with degrees versus blue collar workers, another division, and we could go on and on. So I would just ask yourself, is just what if you could spend some time and learn to love yourself and learn to find out what your beliefs are? Because the more you work on them, you're gonna love yourself, and then you're gonna realize that all we really want in life is to be loved. And then you'll spend all your time not judging people and loving other people because you love who you are.
That's a message to end on.
Yeah.
There we
Thank you
go.
guys so much. Love and appreciate
you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Love you. You
Love you
can
guys.
follow
Bye-bye.
Robert Hollis at roberthollis.com. Also, if you'd like to join our exclusive community, excuse me, our exclusive community, the Inner Circle and the Imaginators, you can join us by going to roberthollis.com/join to register. Lots of great content there, and you'll be able to participate in our special sessions to help you move on to the next level. Please don't forget to like and share this video on YouTube and share it with others. It will help us grow our community and reach those with ears to hear. Thank you, and shout out to our executive producer and visionaire, Matt Hollis. Bless you, my friend. Thank you so very much. Of course, Robert, our GPS to success. And thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. We appreciate it. We love you. And thank you again. My name is Craig A. Jackman. Please be good to yourself, be cash, and until next time, bye for now.
Love you guys. Thanks for watching.
Love you guys.
Appreciate ya.
Love you, Craig. Love you,
Love you,
Matt.
Matt.
Later.
Love you, Robert.
Love you guys. Bye.